Fuck.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics and Radamic. Berto Willis, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We're going to have a great show for you today. That is the show today, buddies. That is the show. It's about Bernie Sanders. It's about the corporate media starting to take notice. It's about the corporate media starting to realize that they can't hold the message. But before we get started on that, I have a few things that I want to cover. First of all, you know, as I've always mentioned over and over again, that it is urgent that we are more, first of all, we are hostage to the corporate media. Too many are hostages to the corporate media. And what we have to start sooner than later is to begin the process of empowering independent media, not solely for the purpose of independent media, but the purpose of really informing folks so that they can make the decisions on their own volition, not on what some corporatocracy is intent on having them do. So therefore, that is one of that is the ultimate reason that we exist, the ultimate reason that the progressive media, the independent media exists. Now, here is an interesting thing that I want to talk to you about. There is a story, and this has nothing to do with the subject today, but because it is not covered intentionally on the mainstream media, I want to play this story that I prepared for you a couple of days ago. And the reason I want to play this story specifically is because, folks, what we have is a media that doesn't make it clear to everyone the existential threat. And when I say that, I do not say that lightly, but the existential threat that is Donald Trump. Much of what Donald Trump does materially affects what's going on in America. So let me go ahead and play that for you, and then we'll take it on the other side. The Trump effect, folks. The Trump effect. If a Muslim was driving in a car, ran over a person he saw on the street or on the curb or wherever, and said the reason I did that was because that was a Christian, that was a white person, every news channel in America would be targeting that particular person. They'll be trying to find out everything about that person's life and telling Americans how vicious this terrorist was. Now, we have a story that occurred earlier this month, but it was just reported on the 19th, where a woman, Nicole Franklin, age 42, ran over Natalia Miranda, a 14-year-old Latina, and when asked by police officers when they found her, why did you run over this little kid? And her answer was simply, because the kid was a Mexican. Now, what does that sound like if it's not what we've started calling by name the Trump effect? People would never think that it was okay, even if they wanted to do these things, even if they did these things, they never felt and when asked by police to go out and say, the reason I did that was because it was a Mexican. They would say, oh, it was an accident or whatever. But Trump has changed the psyche of America. He has changed the psyche where what used to be completely off base is now kind of, okay, it's okay now. Folks, if you doubt that, please do remember, earlier during his campaign, this is what he said: Trump may pay legal fees of man who sucker punched a protester. That was out of his mouth. That changes the psyche of people. When the head of your country is the one who's promoting this type of evil, it makes sense. But you know what I was glad about? There was an interview done on KCCI, and what happened is Joe Henry, the leader, LULAC, he came out and called it by name.
FBI data released in November showed a 14% spike in hate crimes against Latinos nationwide. Henry says what happened in Clive is just another example of how his community's been targeted. He doesn't shy away from saying what he thinks is behind it.
This is the Trump effect. This is what was happening before when he was running as president, and of course since then.
Henry says it's time for local, state, and national leaders to take a stand.
And yes, they should. And not only local leaders, but the news media, who usually demonizes Muslims when they do certain things, demonizes black folk when they do certain things, demonizes Latinos when they do something, need to make sure and be fair in the way we cover issues. Media coverage has a way of modifying people's psyche. This is nothing more than the Trump effect in action one more time. Folks, I hope you enjoyed that. Well, not really enjoyed that, but that is a reality that we are living through today. That is the reality that we are living through today. Anyhow, let's go ahead and get started with the program. The program is titled today, Corporate Media Forced to Cover Bernie Sanders on the Rise. Corporate media forced to cover Bernie Sanders on the rise. Subtitle, they tried to beat Bernie Sanders by ignoring him. They found out that it was impossible to beat a real message, especially one that is existential. What most in corporate media fail to understand is that it is less about Bernie Sanders and more about policies Americans must ultimately have. Ignoring Bernie Sanders changes nothing. Ultimately, Bernie Sanders proves one important tenet. Staying true to policies that align with needs of Americans can, should, and must ultimately what? Ultimately win. So what I want to show you here is I want to show you what how the mainstream media has decided to address this thing now. Here we go.
Politico is reporting that after months of being written off by Democratic Party insiders, in the past few weeks, something has changed in private conversations and on social media. Democratic officials, political operatives, and pundits are now reconsidering Bernie Sanders' chances. NBC's Shaquille Brewster has been on the campaign trail covering the Sanders campaign. Shaq, good to talk to you again. Welcome here into the studio. A little respite for you from the campaign trail. Let's talk about what is changing here. Why are, as we just said, Politico, they're kind of saying that there's been some discussion that Bernie Sanders' campaign has been given a second consideration, so to speak. You're on that campaign every day. What are you seeing?
Right. You know, when you go to Sanders events, you always have the mix of people. The people who are diehard Sanders supporters, were with him in 2016 and now want him to close the deal. And then you have those who are fishing around for a candidate and still open to other candidates. And I think what you're seeing with Senator Sanders is a quiet momentum that he's riding. Just a couple of months ago, it was in October when he had that heart attack. He was sidelined from the campaign trail for about 2.5 weeks. Came back on the debate stage, but many people completely dismissed his campaign after that. They said he's a 78-year-old man and people aren't going to consider this candidate. You saw then Elizabeth Warren rise. You saw Mayor Pete rise. What's happened since is those two candidates have fallen, and Senator Sanders, he never lost. That bottom didn't fall from under him. So he now got his support back and he feels good. His campaign sees the numbers going up in the average of polling. They feel like they have a lot of volunteers. They feel good about where they are right now.
Yes, they feel good about where they are now. They feel good about where they are now. But anyhow, so how do we get started? The Politico article is an interesting article, right? Because it goes into a form that states, well, we think. Well, let's start it from the beginning. Here's how they start the article, because I think that's important. They said, and let me put it on here on screen. What they said is, suddenly. Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign is being taken seriously. For months, the Vermont senator was written off by Democratic Party insiders as a candidate with a committed but narrow base who was too far left to win the primary. Elizabeth Warren had skyrocketed in the polls and seemed to be leaving him behind in the race to be progressive voters' standard bearer in 2020. But in the past few weeks, something has changed. In private conversations and on social media, Democratic officials, political operatives, and pundits are reconsidering Sanders. Now, going forward, I believe people should take him very seriously. He has a very good shot of winning Iowa, a very good shot of winning New Hampshire, and other than Joe Biden, the best shot of winning Nevada. Said Dan Pfeiffer, that's Dan Pfeiffer, the guy, remember, who served as former President Barack Obama's advisor. He could build a real head of steam headed into South Carolina and Super Tuesday. You think? Look, this is not news to those folks that are progressive. We've always known that if you add the total amount of votes that we can get for Bernie Sanders, what we can also get for Elizabeth Warren, what we can also get for Andrew Yang, what we can get for Cory Booker, what we can get for even the billionaire Steyer. You put all of that together, you find out that the progressive base makes up easily the same amount as that supposed centrist or moderate base. Check this out. I did some studies some research a few ago, and what you found out quite quickly was that this is what it breaks down to be. It turns out that we can build, meaning progressives, have the same power as does centrists in the party. But we have one caveat, one thing that is even more important. When the polls are asked about policies that we support, the people are more in line with our policies, way north of 50%. So if you add what people want and you add where progressives stand in the Democratic Party, we can see that the country as a whole is not only a progressive left country, it is a country whose policies, who want these types of policies. And guess what? The reason why Bernie Sanders, they're starting to take notice is that they're scared. Now, there's a sentence that I want to reread in that piece that I just gave, that I just put out there. And let me put that back on the screen. There is a piece that I want to revisit. It says, but in the past few weeks, something has changed. In private conversations and on social media, Democratic officials, political operatives, and pundits are reconsidering Sanders' chances. You know why they're doing that? Now they have to recalculate. Assuming Sanders going to the convention with the plurality of votes, how are we going to deny him the nomination? And if we realize that it's impossible for us to deny him the nomination, how are we going to do it? And if we realize that we cannot do it, how do we bring him into the fold? And that's why that's all the calculations that are going on right now. How do we lasso Sanders the same way we've lassoed Obama into the plutocracy? How do we then bring this wild community activist, this wild person who wants policies that are middle-class centric policy, poor-centric policies, racial justice centric policies, economic justice policies, and all these other social and criminal and all of these policies that people really want. How do we try to tell him, temper, baby, temper? Remember, even Obama tempered. Obama, the person that said, if Bernie Sanders looks like Bernie Sanders is going to become the nominee, I am going to fight against that. He didn't say it in those words, but that's what he implied. More recently, he has said, well, he's been going to the rich people and saying, well, Elizabeth Warren isn't all that bad at all. And the reason why now they're kind of warm into Elizabeth Warren is that she brings progressiveness without the word that Bernie Sanders liked to use. And I won't use the word because I am all about what? Policies. If we can centralize on the policies Americans want, we don't have to be worried about what labels people are going to use. And that is the important thing, folks. Folks, if you're just joining us, please do remember to share these programs, because the way we're going to make progress going forward is to ensure that people are seeing what we have to offer here. If we want to make progress going forward, what we're going to have to do is to make sure that people are seeing these broadcasts from progressives, broadcasts that highlight the progressive message is essential for our message to go forward. So you are the bastion, you are the ones that we are dependent on to make sure that this message gets to all. We're going to continue with the program. I just want to make sure to see if there are any immediate questions that I need to answer from those folks who are watching us on the networks. So as we go forward, my friends, please do remember that this is a progressive show, that ultimately we need to get to everybody. Everybody must get a chance to see this. Okay, moving on. Well, I guess I have one question here. Yeah, yes, we thank you for doing what you're doing. Yes, we know. And what we want to make sure is that all are taken care of. Okay, moving on. There's some more to that article. In fact, there are 5 slides that I created for that article. Very important, the 5 slides for that article. And let's go with the second slide. The second slide is quite interesting. The second slide is quite interesting. It says the following. Let me get rid of the first. Okay. I love people. I believe people should take him very seriously. He has a very good shot of winning Iowa, a very good shot of winning New Hampshire, and other than Joe Biden, the best shot of winning Nevada, said Dan Pfeiffer. The durability of Sanders' candidacy has come as a surprise, even in some states where he performed strongly in 2016 and where he is attempting to improve his standing ahead of the 2020 election. You know, that becomes scary to a lot of people. That becomes very scary to a lot of people. California State Senator Scott Wiener, who defeated a Sanders-backed Democrat for his seat in the liberal-heavy San Francisco area in 2016, said Sanders has been more resilient than I anticipated. But in retrospect, he added, he has a very, very loyal following, and people have really stuck with him. And the reason people have to understand this. Something that, yes, Donald Trump has a lot of support. Donald Trump never keeps his word, but somehow he continues to maintain his support from a particular sect of people. However, there's something else that people really respect. A consistent message, a message that, while changes, a message that stays true to form. And that is what we have so far in Bernie Sanders. And you know what? People like it. People like it for a very specific reason. They feel that if he gets elected, whether the policies come to pass or not, at least the policies just may get effected. Anyhow, folks, if you're just joining us, this is also a call-in show. The telephone number is 646-716-5812. Number 646-716-5812. Give us a call if you want to add anything to the discussion. We are actively taking calls, if you will. I don't know if I've remembered to wish you guys a happy or a Merry Christmas and a Merry or Happy Holidays, and also the expectation of a Happy New Year. If you're just joining us, please do remember to share. All right, I have to go to slide number 3. Slide number 3 is quite interesting, and let me get it up on the screen here so that I can read it. There's slide number 3, and the title I gave to slide number 3 is, do they fear the real progressive debate? Do they fear the real progressive debate? Sanders in second place in national polls. This is what, according to the Politico article, nearly 9% nearly 9% percentage points behind Biden, according to the most recent Real Clear Politics average. He is second in Iowa and first in New Hampshire. The latest CNN poll found he has the highest net favorability rating of any Democratic presidential candidate. While Sanders supporters complain relentlessly that he has received less attention from the media than other candidates, he has also avoided sustained criticism that some of his rivals have supported or have suffered. That could be helping him, especially compared with Warren, who has recently come under fire from the left and center for her health care plan. I want to talk a little bit about that before I go to the other slide. If you really think about it, Bernie hasn't been hit a lot with anything. It's not like he's getting hit by other campaigns, said Michael Serrasso, a former New Hampshire director for Pete Buttigieg campaign who worked for Sanders in 2016. Here's what I want to talk about. There are 2 pieces I want to talk about here that bears mentioning. The first thing is they talk about Elizabeth Warren and her polls, and Elizabeth Warren fallen in the polls because of her left of center healthcare plan, Medicare for All, and how she tried to explain it. I had economist Dean Baker on this program, one of the leading economists in the country. And economist Dean Baker said the following. He said at first he did not agree with the way Elizabeth Warren was handling the way she spoke about the healthcare plan not raising taxes, and that simply Americans are more interested in what it's going to cost them as opposed to their overall cost, as opposed to whether their marginal taxes will increase or not. And at first he said he wanted her to just come clean and said, well, taxes are going to go up. But then he said he realized that it was important for the outcome of Americans. So if the average American citizen with Medicare for All comes out ahead of not having Medicare for All, having this private insurance company that's really a extractor of wealth, then it is best to express it exactly the way that she is expressing it. And that is what he agrees with. So I asked him several times, well, I mean, it seems like you're coming into the fold. I mean, he doesn't want to come into the fold. I mean, he's a true blue blood capitalist economist. But he wanted to say that what Elizabeth Warren was saying was actually correct. Folks, if you're just joining us, please do remember to share these programs. It is essential. Whether you're listening to it live, whether you're listening to it on podcast, whether you're listening to it live on YouTube, or whether you're listening to it on whatever platform, it is imperative that we share to ensure others see this. So please, if you're with us, whatever platform you're on, please share it and make sure others get a chance to hear the information. Now, the second point I wanted to talk about here is simple. I want you to think about this. They say that we know that the plutocracy, we know that the corporatocracy want to have nothing to do with Bernie Sanders' message. They think Bernie Sanders is just an outright, the big S word. The S word. I'm not going to use it because I've been telling my people we're not going to give the media the opportunity to spin. So I'll refrain from using the S word proper so that speech recognition software won't find politics done right and say, you see what they're doing. So anyhow, so here's what we're doing now. Here's what we're going to do. They said, oh, we haven't really hit Bernie Sanders. We haven't really confronted Bernie Sanders. Here's what they say. If you really think about it, Bernie Sanders hasn't been hit a lot with anything. It's not like he's getting hit by other campaigns, said Michael Serrasso, a former New Hampshire director for Pete Buttigieg campaign who worked for Sanders in 2016. What he's trying to say is, still, Bernie Sanders may be soft under the belly. As soon as we start attacking him, he may fall. But you know why they haven't really done that? They claim they have a lot of things. They can show him with in the Castro regime. They can show him in the Chavez regime. They can show him going to Moscow or all these other places, right? How comes they're not firing it up? Are they waiting for him to win the nomination so that then Donald Trump can use all these things against him? Nope, that's not the reason why. The reason why is the following. Whereas maybe an Elizabeth Warren, maybe a Cory Booker, maybe anybody that is considered a bit on the left side would kind of hedge when they start to say you want to have socialized medicine or you want to have that. They have a Bernie Sanders who's not only going to lean into whatever they say, he's going to say, and what do you have to offer to the American people? Let me tell you, you call it socialized medicine. Here's what I tell you it will do. The American people would have this. They will get this, and the people that are ripping them off now. And let me remind you, Mr. Interviewer, that the medicines that we have allowed Americans to be gouged with, let me remind you, Mr. Interviewer, that medicine was developed by the American people, and then your policies, the policies that you are calling anathema to mine, are used to rip these people off. Let me tell you, American people, let me tell you what my policies will do for you. And tell me whatever they want to label it, I don't care, but this is what I'm going to do for you. They don't want Bernie Sanders on the newscast. They don't want Bernie Sanders getting the message because you see, they blacked out Bernie Sanders for years. They blacked out Bernie Sanders for all practical purposes, and his popularity is still there. What happens if he gets a platform? And that is the issue. They're not ignoring Bernie Sanders because they want to be nice to Bernie Sanders. They're not ignoring Bernie Sanders because they think Bernie Sanders is irrelevant. They're ignoring Bernie Sanders because they know if they give Bernie Sanders a platform, his messages will then have to be examined. And when you examine his messages, it is a message that all Americans want. And I'm going to give a personal story after I do this Bernie Sanders segment here to tell you something that happened on Christmas Day right here in my own home. Something that can happen to anybody. And it has to do with healthcare. And it has to do with coverage. A personal story. I can give several personal stories as to why I am an advocate of what we are trying to do in the progressive movement. Because, folks, what has happened here can happen to all. If you want to call in, folks, I know it's the day after Christmas. A lot of people that would normally be here aren't here, but 646-716-5812 is the number. 646-716-5812 is the number. And, of course, you can leave messages in the chat room. You can leave messages in the chat both on YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, or any one of them, my brothers and my sisters, okay? Please feel free to do so. So again, the reason why these guys, in effect, are denying Bernie Sanders has little to do with them having any love for Bernie Sanders or somehow thinking he's irrelevant. They are concerned that if they give Bernie Sanders a platform, Bernie Sanders takes that platform, runs with that platform, and serves them. They don't have a clue what would happen if Bernie Sanders is given that platform. So, folks, I'm here to tell you the truth. I'm here to tell you the things as they are. And I hope you're listening, because what we need to do going forward is much. We're going to go to slide number 4. Número 4. Let's go to that. Let me get to that slide. I think it's this slide. Where is number 4? Here we go. Number 4. Let's go to number 4. Here's the number 4 slide. And let me pull that up as well here. Here's the deal. We must keep both Warren and Sanders viable. You know, I'm in the camp that says any candidate that's progressive right now, I will do very, very little to put any kind of a wrench into their gears. I have no desire to go out and attack Bernie Sanders. I have no desire to go out and attack Elizabeth Warren. I have no desires to go out and attack Andrew Yang. Those are the 3 candidates, in my humble opinion, that we ought to all be honing in on. Those are the only 3 candidates that I believe we should be looking at to be the top of the ticket. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, Andrew Yang. Those are the only 3. Those are the only 3 that their policies, based on getting their policies or a good portion of their policies out. And somebody's going to come and say, but wait a minute, Andrew Yang is sort of a libertarian leaning kind of a guy that doesn't seem to have the same Bernie Sanders-like Medicare for all in his mind. But what I like about Andrew Yang is he seems to be numbers based. If you read his healthcare plan, while it's not Medicare for all, there is one thing about it, and that is, if it were to come into existence, the ultimate effect would be similar to Medicare for all. And while Andrew Yang won't believe it or articulate it, in effect, he will put private insurance at such a disadvantage because profit is an expense in private insurance that you pay for. Remember, you pay more because they have to pay that the high price for dividends, the high price for these executives, etc. I repeat that ad nauseum. I know that, but some people are new. Folks, if you're just coming, please do remember to share. We need you to share. We need you to share. We need you to share. And if you want to call, 646-716-5812. No, a lot of my regulars aren't here, but 646-716-5812 is still available for you. Now, reading. Why we must keep both Warren and Sanders variable. Listen, Larry Cohen, chairman of pro-Sanders group Our Revolution, said Warren's candidacy is not a problem for Sanders if both of them can, together, amass a plurality of delegates heading into the convention, which is what we want. We want the majority of the delegates at the convention to be progressives. And that's what we can do. As Biden falls, which he ultimately will, as all of these fall, which they ultimately will, that is what we get, the plurality of the delegates. The math is that if you think of the voters for Warren and the voters for Sanders as two circles, yes, they overlap, but most of the circles are separate. Cohen said, I think between them, we can get the majority. If you doubt that, I've already done the numbers. Hey, that's what I'm here for, right? And here are the numbers. Let me put that on the screen again. There are the numbers, folk. If we look at the more conservative Democrats, we're at 45%. If we look at the more progressive Democrats, we're at 45%. The fight is for those 10%. But if we look at the totality of Americans, not just Democrats, but if we look at Republicans, we look at independents, we look at the anarchists, everybody that you want to think about, look at all of them. And you start asking them for the policies that they want. Guess what policies they want? The policies that they ultimately want, guess what it turns out to be again? It turns out to be the policies that we are supporting. Let's remember that, my people. Let's remember that. Let's not fall for what again? Let's not fall for the con. So let me put that back on the screens. That was, I think that was slide number 4. Slide number 4. We have to look at these things the way they are and not the way the corporate media would like us to see. So in closing, I want to bring to you slide number 5. And that's where we wrap up the article, the Politico article. And I think it's important. It's very important. Here's slide number 5. There you got it on the screen. They try to make Medicare for all the boogeyman, right? In other words, what they're going to do next is they're going to say, yes, you may like Bernie Sanders. Yes, you may like Elizabeth Warren, but we're hanging them by Medicare for all. And I'm ending it by we're hanging them by Medicare for all because I'm going to tell you 2 stories, right? Maybe more, depending on how much time or how long-winded I am. But anyway, let me read the ending of the story because I'm going to show you how they want to, in as much as they're seeing the growth of the progressive side. Let's see. Sybil Rhea McCarthy says, Wahaha, forced to cover the burn. Want the policy of truth. Hey, Sybil Rhea McCarthy Cochran. Man, your name is long. Usually it's us Latinos de Panama that have long names like that. How can you have an Irish name? Sybil Rhea McFerty Cochran. That's a long name. Okay. Maybe you want to tell me a little bit about it on the screen. Long name. Made me speak a little bit longer. Anyway. Okay, I am Irish, dude. Okay, Sybil, I figured that one out. Okay, continue it. let me get to this part, and then you can ask me anything, or you can give me a call at 646-716-5812. But here's what they ended. If Sanders continues to be taken seriously, he will eventually be subjected to the scrutiny that Warren and Biden have faced for prolonged stretches that include an examination. Yes, but hey, by the way, Sybil, I'm Latino. I'm black Caribbean Latino, not Hispanic. Hispanic sort of have a different kind of a connotation. So soy Latino, okay? All right. If Sanders' candidacy continues to be taken seriously, he will eventually be subjected to the scrutiny that Warren and Biden have faced for prolonged stretches. That includes an examination of his electability. That conversation has never worked well for anyone, Pfeiffer said. You notice what they're doing there? They're trying to give you a message. Hey guys, if you're supporting Warren and Sanders, remember that he's going to somehow get a scrutiny he hasn't had. Oh, really now? Like Hillary Clinton didn't put all those messages out there on Sanders, right? And the conversation never goes well. Well, it's amazing how Obamacare has blossomed as you guys in the corporate media has decided that, oh my God, we may get one of these lefties with Medicare for all. Let's kind of like Obamacare now. Please, please, please. Let's kind of like Obamacare now. No. That conversation has never worked well for anyone. How can you say it has never worked well for anyone when that conversation is what's pushing Bernie Sanders? When that is a conversation that is pushing the entire country, health care. Continuing, former California Governor Gray Davis, the good old, well, I won't say, stopped short of saying firm support for Medicare for all would be an impediment for Democrats in the primary, but suggested the risk for the nominee is significant. Hogwash. Californians and Americans in general like options, not mandates. Really? So why are you mandating that they accept private insurance companies who mandate what policies they can take, who mandates what doctors they can see, who mandates what drugs they can have? I thought Californians and Americans didn't like mandates. So why are you giving them mandates by giving them private insurance, that private insurance tell them what doctor they can see and what medicines they can have? You know what Medicare for All does? Medicare for All says, hey, go find the doctor that you like and stay with him. And since we don't have to renegotiate contracts every year, you can rest assured that that doctor is yours. You can rest assured that as long as that doctor is alive, as long as that doctor is accepting customers, accepting patients, that you are there. But you could happen, what happened in Houston could happen to you. Remember right here in Houston, 178,000 people lost their lost their insurance that covered, what's the name of it? Herman, because Cigna couldn't make a deal with Herman. So guess what? You'll have to change your doctors. Guess what? You'll have to change maybe your prescriptions as well. They lie to you, and too many Americans accept it. That's why I tell you folks, you got to share this stuff. You have to make sure people understand what is really going on. Faiz Shakir, Sanders' campaign manager, said, political insiders and pundits are rethinking his chances, not out of the goodness of their heart, but because it is harder and harder to ignore him when he is rising in every average that you see. And he welcomes a conversation about Sanders' electability, he said. We want that, he said. I'd love to be able to argue why he stands a better chance to beat Donald Trump than Joe Biden. Joe Biden doesn't well, let me modify that. In my humble opinion, every single turn Texas Indy, it is already my dear friend Sybil. Listen, I think, honestly, deep in the heart, deep in the brain, based on the folks that I talked to, every single one of those candidates that appeared on stage, every single one will beat Donald Trump. I don't think that the media is trying to scare you like this is going to be some close election. The way they are doing the polls are purposely trying to scare you that this is going to be a close election. What they don't see is the people who voted for Trump voted out of fear, and they voted for Trump because they are scared of what America is beginning. He's maximized on the scary white people. Trump has maximized himself on the scary white people, those that could vote. They went out and vote. Even in 2018, their numbers went up. Our numbers just went up more because you know what? We know that it's existential. And for all, the biggest voting bloc right now in America is the non-voting bloc. And most of them are ours. Most of them think there's nothing in there for them. Those people that believe whiteness was existential, they voted. But you know what? The votes that are left to get are the votes for people who are going to finally see. Who are going to, you're right, Sybil, you're right. The vote they're going to see is like, oh my God, we can finally go out there and vote for something, but you've got to be the salespersons. You've got to be the people that reach into every cranny of the country and tell folks that. Because the mainstream media is doing everything to scare them into thinking, oh, you got to pick somebody like a Biden. No, you don't. No, you don't. No, you shouldn't. Because it changes nothing. Picking a Biden ensures destruction in 2022. Okay? Biden may win in 2020, but he'll lose everything in 2022 because he has nothing to offer. He has nothing to offer other than saying, I will leave the status quo. But he doesn't have anything to offer to reverse a Trump policies because, you know, Trump policies, we hate Trump because of his rhetoric. But Trump policies is neoliberal policies. It's the same policies that with a little bit of environmental control and a little bit about less fight about getting rid of Obamacare. That's it. That's the neoliberal policy of Biden. If you tell the rich people, the wealthy, you look at them and say, you know what? Guess what? You're not in trouble, rich people. Even though we gave you all this money back, you're going to be able to keep it under the Biden administration. You have nothing to worry about. Nada. And Ria came up with a new phrase, mata. Mata in Spanish means kill. But she is using it to mean make America think again. You may need to not use mata. We're a country that understands Spanish too, so mata may have some different connotations, and the right may use mata to kind of put it down. So, Riyadh, try to use something else other than mata, my friend. Yeah, neoliberalism is capitalism on steroids. Yes, I agree with you 100%. Capitalism has no room for humanity. Humanity is just a cog in the structure. Humanity is just something that we maintain because we need them as the widgets that are going to manufacture and buy other widgets to keep the few that control capital at the top in such a manner that they are served. It's just another form of slavery. As Dr. Richard Wolff, economist Richard Wolff, was on my show several times, and he has explained that in quite detail. For those of you who've never watched Politics Done Right before, check out Richard Wolff, economist Richard Wolff, who I interviewed a few ago. Yeah. Oh, tú hablas español. Ah, y también francés y alemán. Wow, I'm impressed. Maybe you should call in and give us a little bit of that language skill of yours. Maybe you can teach me some German. I don't know. Alemán, folks, is German. You know, how did Alemán become German? I mean, in Spanish. I always wondered that. And Francois, French, you know. Anyhow, so folks, let me tell you my story. A little quick story. Yesterday was Christmas. We were about to start our Christmas dinner. And my niece is talking to my mother-in-law, and in talking to my mother-in-law, they noticed that she stopped talking, and her lips sort of went to the side, like anyone who's having a stroke. My wife came in and ran in, hey, I think my mother is having a stroke. We need to call 911, and she, you know, so I she's all frazzled, so I kind of picked the phone up and dialed the 911 for her and called the ambulances, and they come out to the house. And here's the part that I talk about why everybody should want to talk about Medicare for all. Because here is a wife who is frazzled, her mother is having a stroke. We're all trying to be circumspect. My daughter is doing her little thing. My daughter is a third-year med student. She's checking out her pupil dilation and all that sort of a stuff. And the first thing before they put my mother-in-law on the stretcher, do you have insurance? We need to see your insurance papers. And while my wife is worried and fighting to get these papers, what we're seeing is, oh my God, we're looking at capitalism meet you're dying. Because here she is having a stroke, and the person driving the ambulance, the first thing he wants to know, where are your insurance papers? You know, as people walked around and everybody, it was almost too normal as my wife and my daughter are going through purses and my nieces are going through purses to see if we have the insurance papers. But she has insurance. She's older, 92. She's covered by Medicare. So she had it. Before they put her on the stretcher, before they put her in the thing, all of those things have to be covered. Then she gets down there to the hospital. And one of the first things they're asking, instead of just trying to take care of this human being who comes in with an issue, this is real. The first thing they do, it's all about getting the insurance together. It's all about getting the financing together. Humanity be damned. Capital first. That is what we have. I am not saying the bakery, all these things that we use in our economy to sell food, buy food, and all these things, that belong in a private system, in a capital market. That's fine. But my God, the things for survival, healthcare, these things don't belong in a private system where, we are going to give you service based on whether we believe you can afford to pay for it. You guys have to understand the evil that our system is. This is not just something that we should be platonic with. We have an evil, very evil healthcare system. For decades, I got a call, and since we're coming close to time, I'm going to take the call right away. So 509, you're on the air. 509, come on in. You are on the air. 509, come on in.
Es una vergüenza lo de que haces, de que hablas, porque entre más tiempo se pasa, más daño se puede hacer, ¿verdad?
Exactamente.
Y deben estar interesados en la vida, no el dinero.
Mira, estás exactamente correcto. Déjame decir lo que dijiste en inglés. What she just said, it's a shame. It's a national shame that the first thing that folks have to go through is talking about money before they talk about anything else. And my answer to her, she's absolutely right. It is a shame. Talk to me, my friend. Anything else you want to add to the discussion?
Because I'll tell you what, I have been to the doctor a number of times here. I have some conditions myself, and a couple of times I walked out of the office and I said, okay, let me die then, right?
Right.
Because it made me so mad, and I will not put up with it. I walked in to see a specialist after a hospitalization recently, and they said, that'll be $45. Before I saw the doctor.
Right.
Before. I said, well, I'm not going to do that. You mean the doctor, tell me right now, If I don't have the money, then the doctor won't see me, correct?
That-
Oh, the woman would not tell me that. She says, "Oh, I'm not going to say that."
Well, that is exactly what it is, okay? And there are several. First of all, the doctor doesn't have to see you, and he won't see you. Now, it is a crying shame that that's what goes on. And the thing about it is, what is your name, first of all?
Sybil,
Yes.
Sybil Ray McCafferty Cochran.
Oh, Sybil. Great to hear from you, Sybil. Great to hear from you, Sybil. Let me tell you, it is interesting because we talk about these being things that are on the fringe or to the left, right? What we have to do as
right,
progressives,
but it's not.
right? And what
It
we have
affects
to do
every single one of us every day of our lives. Yeah.
exactly. What we have to do is the following. We have to, you see, the reason why they say these things on the fringe is they think by saying it, it makes it so. And actually,
It'll make
in the
it
minds,
true.
right, in the minds of many people, it does. In the minds of many people, they hear Medicare for all, they hear it's on the fringe, right? So what we have to do is we have to reclaim those fallacies. We have to make sure that people don't go there and explain to them why that's not true and explain to them in detail why that is not true. And that's why we have Politics Done Right on programs like this, right? Because what we want to do is inform people that don't listen to the mainstream media. How can the mainstream media that depends on getting advertising from all these different drugs to somehow believe that they're going to speak against or speak in favor of policies that are likely to...
Well, it's unrealistic. It's an unrealistic expectation.
Exactly.
But the other thing that I'm doing is, speaking of Professor Wolf, some friends of mine actually got me Understanding Marxism by Professor Wolf as a Christmas gift. So I'm studying it because I like him so much, because he explains things in such a simple way,
Right.
in a way that we can all understand, even a person like me that's so right-brained. Because I've studied psychology. I have an ABD
Right.
in psychology, and I'm a linguist, and that's very right brain. So economics for me was like, really a lot of numbers. Well, he Dr. Wolf brings it right down to earth,
Well,
and
I've interviewed him.
in a very
I've interviewed Dr. Wolf
Yeah, I know
several
you have.
times.
Yes, I know. I saw him on your channel the other day.
Okay, yeah. So he is great, and I think what we have, the problem about Dr. Wolf is because he makes sense, they won't give him a lot of TV coverage on the corporate media. They won't allow him on, and
Yeah.
it's the same thing with Bernie. They
Just-
talk about
And it's the same, and the same thing with Noam Chomsky as well.
Noam Chomsky and even to some extent Stiglitz. Stiglitz is is for what he calls progressive capitalism, which is similar to what Elizabeth Warren is talking about. And again, like I said, all I want to make sure is that everybody's taken care of. But I gotta get out of here, Sybil. So I got to go ahead and make a quick pitch to ask people to subscribe to the program. So thank you so kindly
Sure. Well, I've
for
already
calling.
I subscribe, Davidberto, and I enjoy watching your show very much, and thank you.
Thank you
Okay,
so kindly
and
for
have a
subscribing.
And I hope that your mother-in-law is okay. I
she-
didn't hear the end of the story.
I really appreciate your good thoughts, Sybil. You have a wonderful day, okay?
You too, Davidberto. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Folks, we want to thank Sybil for calling in. I know it's a day after Christmas, but it never stops. This never stops. This will never stops. Folks, I want to encourage you to become how do I say it? To become subscribers of Politics Done Right. And the reason why we need to have subscribers to Politics Done Right is that is the only way we are going to make the difference. What I'm going to place in the chat feeds right now are ways in which you can support the show. You can support the show by going to, as I just placed in there, going to patreon.com/politicsdoneright. That is how you support, that is how you become a subscriber. Our subscriptions are pretty inexpensive. You know what? Let me put that in there again. You can subscribe right there. And I just placed that inside of the link. I think it should appear on both Periscope Facebook and YouTube. You can also go ahead and add to our what I call our upgrade fund. That is a fund that ensures that we get the equipment that is necessary to have this show, to promote this show correctly. Let me thank you guys because we got a new after we got a donation. You should see that on our GoFundMe page. We completed enough to get, or not enough, a partial amount to get the faster computer that allows us to do more videos more efficiently. And if you've noticed, we have a lot more videos going on. We have a lot more clips going on. And if you go to our YouTube channel, you see the amount of videos with prescient information that we're putting there. That is all because of whom? That's because of you. You've invested in Politics Done Right, and your investment in Politics Done Right is ensuring that we get this message not only to you. You are the choir. We need you. You are the ones that supporting it. You're the ones that are putting this message out. But thank you. We got one of those screens. We still have some more equipment to get. And remember the last push that we had, you guys made it possible so that at Netroots Nation and at Netroots Nation 2019 and at Bridge Alliance 2019, we were able to come to you live with a new mobile setup that we had to do the work. So again, without the Politics Done Right subscribers, we couldn't do it. You are the guys that are responsible for it. So again, please continue to contribute to our equipment fund. Our equipment fund ensures that we can continue to bring what we need to bring to you. Likewise, if you just want to give a contribution or you want to be a standard, either a contribution or a standard bearer from PayPal, here is the link for that. And I just added that. I think I just added that to the screen as well. And of course, you can go to our store.politicsdoneright.com. We have great t-shirts out there. We have the mugs. We have these things as well, the Politics Done Right sticker. I tell you what, anybody who subscribe right now, I'll subscribe at the $4.95 level. I think I'll go ahead and send you a, what is this again? A bumper sticker. And if you go at the $9, I'm just throwing this out here now, or $10, I don't remember what it is. I'll give you my book, Lose Weight and Be Fit Now. Hell, it's Christmas time, and you know, like I picked out, I'm pretty sure a lot of folks picked out as well. And again, if you go at the higher level, you get a hard copy of As I See It, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. Here is the thing, folks. But if you just subscribe at the lower levels, all of you have access to all of my books. All of my books online. You can just go ahead and read it online there. So, I mean, you have all access to that. But anyhow, store.politicsdoneright.com. And what do you have at the store.politicsdoneright? We have 3 new t-shirts. We have the one about this one here that says, "Hey, Nancy, please don't impeach me. Please don't impeach me." Well, you know, she got it. She impeached them, but it's still ongoing. So that t-shirt is kind of cute. Please don't impeach me. You can get that at store.politicsdoneright.com. And also, you can show that you are a supporter of this type of program by going and get this t-shirt that says what? I support independent media. I support independent media. That nice t-shirt there. And the newer t-shirt here is one for, you remember at the Democratic debate when Andrew Yang said, I know, America, you guys are surprised that I'm still here. It's a funny t-shirt. Think about you going into a room and saying, "Hey, I'm still here. I am still here." That at that debate is when I decided to add Yang to one of my 3 candidates. At first, it was just Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Andrew Yang has just been added to my watch folder. We will continue to watch Andrew Yang doing his thing. So, folks, please do remember, again, support Politics Done Right. That is how we are going to get things done. Well, we are at the end of the program. My name is Egberto Willies. And you know how I end this, baby. I end it the same way every single time. I am what? Out.